Open science is the practice of making research results and data accessible to anyone and everyone. At the University of Exeter, we believe the sharing of data is essential in the tackling of climate change. For example, data linkage across the agricultural industry can help greatly reduce the environmental impact of breeding, farming and crop production by using field data as a global indicator. However, indiscriminate and unregulated data openness in this realm is socially damaging. Data provided by legitimate research contributors, such as breeders, farmers and their communities, can be exploited without acknowledgement or reward. At eGenis, we believe data should be shared lawfully and ethically, in a way that is fair to everyone involved, to build trust, include diverse contributors, and voice multiple perspectives. By investigating intelligent openness, we can then foster a culture of data exchange and better, more responsible, open science.
Hello, my name is Sabina Leonelli. I'm a professor of philosophy and history of science at the University of Exeter. And today I want to talk to you about what data can tell us about developing coping strategies for a rapidly changing planet. And what this means is thinking about how do we use data. And in the case of my research, we're looking particularly at data of relevance to agriculture, data about crops, data about plants, using this data as global resources. And this also means making data widely available. This is the notion of open data, making this data available so that anybody can use them in whichever way they want. Data are arguably a common good that can and should be harnessed for the survival of humans and of the planet. However, data can be highly diverse, difficult to actually interact with. There's very different types of data sources, different data formats, and most importantly, there are different types of cultures of data exchange and data sharing that can be across scales, across national borders, and across the private and the public domain. It turns out that, in fact, having data fully open, especially data of relevance to agriculture, can, in fact, hurt people and hurt the planet. This is because making data open is difficult to reconcile with the rights of indigenous groups, for instance, but also farmers and local breeders. And also, there is a huge amount of privatization of data from frontliers and farming instruments, for instance, in the agrotech business. There is no really clear intellectual property framework around this kind of data, and regulation around data sharing varies enormously across the globe. So we urgently need some agreements around the different stakeholders in this field for the sharing, the access, and the reuse of data. The big question that all of this raises is, if we talk about governing this data, who is responsible for this and who should establish rules for data governance? This is the kind of question that we are asking in a project at the University of Exeter, which is done in collaboration with the Alan Turing Institute, where we're looking at how making open data fairer to everybody involved can actually help mitigate climate change. As part of this, we are looking, for instance, at ways in which data can be properly curated, taken care of, so that it can really foster a critical reuse, so that people don't just take data for granted, but they really think about how data can be reused in ways that are fair. Building responsible practice into a technical specification of data infrastructures, databases, is not just a question of adding ethics at the end of this research, but really thinking about it all the way through. Involving data providers, again, in the research process so that we can get their voices heard in the research process. And of course, encourage a wide-ranging debate over why we are reusing this data. What are the overarching visions of human development that we want to promote with this kind of research? One of the things that we have observed is that the conditions for trustworthy data sharing in this field vary enormously. They, of course, involve technological issues, having the right software, the right hardware, using the right databases, but they also involve a mix of relevant skills. And this can vary between skills from data scientists and skills from domain experts, and also farmers and breeders. We need appropriate policy and governance norms to define what constitutes fair data use. And most importantly, we need to have a framework for the ethics and the accountability of data sharing in this domain, a framework that acknowledges the provenance of data, that allows to allocate responsibility for the reuse of data, and help us to identify the gaps and who may be excluded from these transactions and should in fact be represented. These issues are, of course, particularly important as we're heading towards a post-COVID world. And this is an area where at the University of Exeter, we've also done a lot of work, and we continue to commit to think about what a post-pandemic data science and post-pandemic fair data use can look like. Thank you very much.